Hi, I thought I'd talk to you all about what it's like to be diagnosed with metastatic cancer and how I feel about it, and just some of the strange things that people believe about why people get metastatic cancer, blah blah blah. I had breast cancer in 2011. That was primary breast cancer, and primary breast cancer is treatable, and 70% of people who are treated for primary breast cancer don't get their cancer back. And that's marvelous. And I was on tamoxifen, and that's I'd done my double mastectomy, and I had chemo. I was on 5 years of tamoxifen, which is hormone therapy to keep straight cancer cells at bay, so they hopefully peter out and just don't come back. I was 2 months off my 5 years, which meant that, after 5 years, you're pretty much in the clear. And so it was 2 months of that, and I found out that um, I thought I had gastritis, or the doctor thought I had gastritis, and then they thought gallstones, and then they did a blood test, and then I was very quickly diagnosed with extensive, innumerable tumors to my liver, and I have another one in my spine at L5. So I started chemo 2 days later. This time chemo, the first thing, that you learn when you're metastatic is that everybody tells you straight away, this is not a curable situation. This is not a curable situation. And straight away that this is maintenance, and they're just like trying to give you some more time. So extensive, innumerable tumors in your liver is not a good thing. It was pressing on my diaphragm and making it hard to breathe, and it was squashing my stomach and making it hard to eat, and I was losing a lot of weight, and it was very, very challenging. For about 6 weeks. And once I started chemo, the first week, the liver, which was really massive, started shrinking. So I was really excited. And the second week, I didn't have enough neutrophils, part of my immunity, to have a full chemo. So I had a partial, a reduced dose. And the liver kept shrinking, which is marvelous. And I got back the ability to sort of speak and breathe after 3 o'clock. Got back the ability to eat 3 meals a day and eat and drink without problem, and came off the painkillers. And it was wonderful. My third week, I didn't have enough neutrophils for any chemo. And my fourth week is next week, and I don't know how that will go. Maybe I will get chemo. But the drug I'm on, which is Abraxane, is like a Cinderella drug. And it's known to be able to shrink tumors even to, where you can't see them. But people would get very excited, oh my God, she's cured and all that stuff. But in the literature, it lasts around 10 months. It's sort of like a Cinderella drug, and it allows you to go to the ball for a lot longer. So the situation that I was in was, closer to around a 4 to 6 month situation. When that would be, I wouldn't be here. And now I'm kind of looking more at about a 10 months to a year before this drug probably loses its effectiveness. It loses its effectiveness because what happens with metastatic cancer is stray cancer cells from the original tumor had got into the bloodstream or the lymph or whatever, and they go off and they live in your body. And tamoxifen is meant to starve them of estrogen, because I was estrogen receptive. And that means that they can't get what feeds them, so they don't grow. But in some people, those cancer cells mutate, and they no longer need estrogen. They feed themselves with something else. And so they're just kind of laughing at the medication while they're creating tumors everywhere. And that's what happened. So now they clearly do not like Abraxane, which is really good. But in 10 months, they will probably mutate again, and they won't give a damn about the Abraxane, and then they may have another drug. But chemo will be every week, probably 3 weeks on, 1 week off, if I have enough immunity for that. And that's for the rest of my life, which may be about a year. In a year, who knows? It might be a bit longer. They will probably have a second kind of drug that they can offer. It's called a second-line treatment. And after that, there are people who've done third line, fourth line, fifth line treatments. But every time you get another treatment, commonly the cancer cells do not respond as brilliantly as the first time. And this is how you progressively, lose your life to metastatic cancer. I have a failed respiratory drive. I have had that since December, since chemo in 2011. And it was something I'd had levels of since I was about 2 years old, which was probably from things like suffocation abuse and being given gin and Valium since I was 2 to 4 years old. And that impaired my respiratory drive, which actually turned out to be a really good thing. So when it fully failed as an adult, I was really shocked because I had to be on a machine that kept me breathing when I slept, because my brain didn't do that anymore. And that was sort of a bigger loss to me than my breasts. But now that I'm facing metastatic cancer, and I know that the end can be really drawn out, and that's what frightens people so much about death from metastatic cancer. But I'm not going to do it that way. When the drugs stop working, I'm not going back to a state where I struggle to breathe or struggle to eat or struggle to drink. I'm just going to ask for some sleeping pills and leave my machine off and stay asleep. And my brain will not keep me breathing, and I will just leave. What do I believe about that? I believe that I live on in all the people I have ever taught and inspired and moved and annoyed. Everybody who has known me, I live on in them. I live on in my art. I live on in my music. I live on in my sculptures and my writing and my work as a consultant and my teaching that I did as an art teacher and a drama teacher and a language teacher. And I live on in all those things. So I feel that the people I live on in become my body. It's like being immortal, So I lose my body, but I live on in those people. And obviously, most particularly, my gorgeous husband, who I have had the most wonderful 17 years with, and my cats, who will never forgive me. And I will be cremated, and I will be scattered to nature locally, where people can walk among nature and know I'm there. And I have absolutely no fear of that. And of course it's sad. I'm 52. I'll be 53 in a couple of weeks, and this will probably be my last year. And of course that's sad. And I had my time. Me and my husband Chris, we had our time crying and shocked and just, couldn't believe that the situation, and the surrealism of the situation. We all learn about illness and cancer and, that person's fighting, they're fighting the good fight, they're gonna, whatever. But this is not that situation. This is about how are you going to be living while you're dying, and how are you going to do what will probably be your last year here. And I'm going to do it as happily and beautifully and creatively as I can, as a very much alive person until I have to leave. And I think for me, we mythologize death a lot, and we have all this magical thinking about it. It's very grandiose, it's very self-important. It's, you know, oh, if only you had done this, if only you had done that, if only you know, clicked your heels 3 times and forgave your mother, and if only you fell to your knees and, you know, put your life in the hands of a sky fairy god that you don't believe in, or, you know, if only you fully believed in a sky fairy, my sky fairy, and if only you had always eaten only, you know, miso soup and a pure alkaline, and taken cannabis oil and a million things. And that's all well and fine, but it really is pretty grandiose and self-important. And the fact is, an apple, look at an apple, leave an apple sitting there, leave a series of apples sitting there, not eaten, and they will leave their body. They will decompose. Everything has a shelf life. And I'm organic matter, and I have a shelf life. And some apples will have a shorter shelf life than other apples. And that's okay, because they're made that way. And, you know, I'm 52, I'll be 53, and for some people that's a really short life. But I have lived at least 100 years in that 52 years. I have had the most amazing life. It's been brutal. It's been traumatizing. It's been shocking. It's been wonderful. It's been magical. It's been crazy. It's been silly. It's been surreal. It's been beautiful. It's been sad. It's been very alienated and isolated and confusing and overwhelming, and it's been hilarious, and it's been purposeful, and it's been wildly creative, and it's been loving, and it's been confronting, and it's been all the different rides at the amusement park. I have been on every ride at the amusement park, and I do not feel, I think the only regret that we can have about death is that we never fully lived, and I cannot have that regret, for I have absolutely fully lived. It's been a wonderful time at the amusement park, and I value every one of the rides, however yin, however yang, in my Taoist reality. You know, that thing about, you know, why did I get my cancer back? You know, what did you do? How did that happen? Blah, blah, blah. Why you? Well, why not me? You know, it's not a lack of God, because the cemeteries are full of Christians who deeply believed and threw themselves wholeheartedly at the feet of God, and as did all their relatives, and they're still in the cemetery. It's not for, you know, feelings about my mother. I have worked my whole life to understand and come to terms with and accept the reality of what that person is, and that's okay, and I'm fine about it. And there are lots of people in cemeteries who had wonderful relationships with their mothers, or it's not whether or not I lived on miso soup or alkaline this or whatever. There's people in cemeteries who did all that stuff, and they're still there. So please get off your soapbox. I mean, that's just so panicky. It's so, it's really what's underneath it is saying, oh, I feel so helpless. I am afraid of death. Oh, that could happen to me. I need to know I can control it. Guess what? I don't need to know I can control it. I am cool about the fact that I can't control it, and it's okay. Just like the apple can't control that one day it's going to decompose. It's past its use by. It's okay, I'm organic matter. And it's okay I don't believe I'm going off to a cloud in the sky or a heaven or whatever. That's okay. And it's okay that I don't believe I'm going to be reincarnated. That's okay too. And it's okay I don't believe I'm going to hell either. It's okay that I believe that I just live on in all the legacy that I leave behind. And, for good or bad, that works for me. And, I just, we all have our own beliefs. Those are mine, and they give me peace. And I guess in terms of why, did I be the unlucky one. Am I unlucky? I had a great life. I am really well taken care of in the medical process, and as far as how I'm doing this last year. Um, and it may be longer than this last year, but I'm open to the fact it might just be this year, and that's okay. And but in my family history, my father died of cancer. He was 59. My cousins, I have three other cousins. They're all younger than me, and they've all dealt with serious cancer. Two have had bowel cancer, one's had breast cancer. One of them had bowel cancer, lymphoma, and melanoma, and has survived them all. And one day, their cancer may come back and they may be in my boat. And I want to be a great example to them of how to do this well. And the next generation after that was my mother's generation. She's one of 9 siblings. Her older sister had cancer. Her next younger sister died of lymphoma. The one under that, 2 under that died of lymphoma. So the next sister under that died of lymphoma. And then another brother died of lymphoma. And they were all quite young, 50s, 60s, early 60s. And that's okay too. That's obviously there's some funky things going on in the immune department. And, we get all kinds of genetics. We get freckles, we get red hair, we get, whatever. Our eyes, we get a collagen disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which comes on that side. And collagen is responsible for immune regulation. For all I know, my immune regulation is wackadoo, and this is one of the outcomes of that. Does it mean that I'm unlucky? I've had a marvelous life. I have a very, very full, wonderful life. I don't feel unlucky. Beyond my mother's generation, her mother had jaw cancer, melanoma, survived it. Most of her siblings, I think all of her siblings, died of cancer. Her father had many operations for bowel cancer, about 8. Finally had all his whole bowel out, and he died of a heart attack. But lots of cancer. I believe all but one of his siblings died of cancer. One died early from pneumonia, so didn't get cancer. She was in her 20s. And so I grew up understanding the cancer history of my relatives. And I understand, that I also have always had immune issues. I'm IgA deficient, IgG2 deficient. I've always been relatively neutropenic. So it's, lack of neutrophils. And these things help you go and clean up cancer. They help you go and fight this stuff. I was a sick kid. I was always on antibiotics my first 26 years because I couldn't fight infections. I was one of those kids who would have been dead by about 3 years old before the invention of antibiotics, which gave me life. And, in my teens, as a homeless teen, I was not interested in being alive. I was extremely reckless. And I had 3 wonderful teenage friends who cared about my life far more than I did. And eventually I started caring about my life. And I look back and think about the many times they saved me from myself. And I got 40 more years that I would not have had because of those 3 angels. And then I've spent, my last 10 years, with more than 10 years, my last 20 years, just with such a sense of purpose and such a creativity and such a connection with the world and with my husband and with my community. And I just feel it's been a really, really blessed life. And I don't feel I did anything wrong. I feel that, this is part of my genetics and it's playing out. And it's part of my, environmental impacts from having a load of bugs from being an immune deficient girl and damage to various, DNA. But also I came into this world with genetic disorders and it's okay. It really is okay. And I'm also born to an alcoholic. And my father was also probably someone with FASD. So even the eggs and the sperm that I came from were DNA damaged from alcohol that I had no say in. And they were like that because they were born to, my mother was born to alcoholic parents. My father was born to a mother who was a very lovely, gorgeous lady, but very into her red wine. And big time, and a beautiful lady. But so they inherited their stuff, and I inherited stuff from them. And those people, FASD people, also have immune dysregulation. So I'm okay with whoever I got born to and whatever was that legacy. Um, I don't regret it. I don't think, oh wow, I'm so unlucky. I wish that I had different genetics. I wish I was born to different sorts of people. I wish I didn't have this legacy. No, I am what I am. And I have made what I've made out of it. And I think what I've made out of it is something really cool. Yeah. And I have no regrets. Yeah. So thanks for listening. And I hope you find this a really positive video about the whole death and dying thing, and yeah, what it actually means. Yeah, and it's okay. Bye.